I really feel like we all have a lot to learn about ourselves. We're not taught to go inward to really evaluate any part of our own behaviors. We're taught to just project it outwardly and blame it on other people. And this is really the first step in taking your power back, is to, relieve some of the emotion, be open, and allow yourself to question yourself and really open up to the mental processes that go with the healing.
Well, hi, and welcome back. This is Jennifer Palmer, and today I wanted you to hear Carrie Goulet's story. So, Carrie, I want you to go ahead and just explain who you are and what you do, and then I want to get into a little bit about your story and what have you experienced? How do we get to know each other?
I'm Carrie Goulet, and I am a energy healer and Angelic Toner. That's my more signature that came from all of this. And I don't know, it really opened me up once I started. So I'm here to kind of share that.
How did we meet? I know it was probably like 5 years ago?
Probably 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Okay.
I actually was on my own healing journey. I have hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease, and I was kind of fed up with the just going up and down, having this cycle all the time of, kind of getting better and then feeling worse. And so um, I was searching for naturopathic medicine somewhere near me, and Nourishing Journey popped up. And so I looked at the website and I was like, oh, this looks really cute. It even has a little cafe and you can get organic smoothies and stuff. And that was like really cool because you could go in and have that and a service. So I actually had emailed and set up an appointment. I didn't honestly know what I was kind of going in for. I got there, we did some kind of a hand thing and kind of went through some of the more detox kind of protocols and stuff. And then I had my first ever energy healing session, and I kind of bawled like a baby, which was very uncharacteristic of me, especially around somebody I've just met for the first time. I'm very like, I don't know this person. So why would I just cry in front of them? But I felt lighter when I left. Like I left this weight behind me. And so I was like, okay, like let me see this through, see where it goes. Cause I definitely felt better. And I felt more in control. And that's how we met.
That is how we met. I know. I remember that day. It was really beautiful. I felt like you almost felt like family to me. It was a great meeting. As soon as I saw you, I was like, there's something about her.
And I was
Um,
like, you got a very mom vibe for me. It was very nurturing and very supportive. And so I think I just like, it was like my soul felt comfortable, even though I was like, this is so weird.
yeah, I know. I know. It's so funny. When you meet your people, it's just there's definitely an instant connection. And you had mentioned the going up and down, and I remember I've had health challenges too, and that seems to be a lot of my specialty is helping people who've had health issues. And the up and down is so common. What I'm curious about is I know you had dramatic shifts and changes in your health with all of the energy healing. Can you describe some of that and just talk about like what you went through and when you started noticing that, oh my gosh, I think this is actually helping?
Um, yeah, so honestly, like, I mean, that first session really for me kind of set everything in motion because I felt lighter. I was still having symptoms, and I remember coming for a group energy healing, and there was like 3 or 4 of you, and I remember feeling like I couldn't move, which it should have been scary, but I just remember, I had had a few sessions with you at that point, and I was like, Jen would never hurt me. It's fine. You're fine. Just breathe. But I felt like I couldn't move. Like it was so thick. And then I could feel each person come behind me and like, do their own modality of energy, and everybody's energy felt like different. But I don't even actually, because we're in meditation, so like I don't really know who it was that was behind me, but it felt like somebody was taking a string of beads from the like root chakra all the way up and out. And then it was almost like a burp, like trying to come up is the best I could explain it. And then, I was just like, oh, that was so intense. Like, and in my head, I was like, if I can feel energy this strongly, I really want to know what this is. I want to dive more into this and see if I'm feeling this with this intensity and it's affecting me like this, then I want to see what this is and see how I can help myself and maybe help others and kind of like, see where it goes. I remember leaving there and I remember being, I think, the happiest I've ever been in my life for at least 2 weeks. Like I felt like I was walking on clouds. I had all the symptoms same as before, but I was just happy and like laughing and joyous, like a little fairy running around, frolicking in the woods. I don't know. Like it was like something clicked finally for me. And I was like, okay. And I remember I went to you and I was like, hey, Jen, can I learn this? Can you teach this to me? And you're like, of course, anybody can learn. And I was like, okay, are you sure? Because I didn't feel like I could do what you were doing because, like, what do I know? I literally just walked in here like 2 weeks ago, not ever hearing about this before. And now I'm like, hey, teach me. I want to know what this is. So it was like, really stepping into an entirely different world for me. It was like before I walked through those doors, it was like one world existed. And then after, it was like kind of a lot of self-learning and learning about so many different things. And it was like so many different doors and avenues and so much new information came in, and it was just like it was really like kind of a pivotal moment in my life because whatever it is, like I've learned this, I'm taking this wherever I go and I'm only going to grow from there. This has just opened the door to whatever's next and allowed me to feel more in my power and more in touch with myself, in ways that I didn't actually even know existed until I started. And I mean, so many times I've felt very like, I don't know if I'm good at this. I always, even now, I second guess myself a lot, even though I actually know at this point that I am doing. I've learned enough. I know what I'm doing, but even then, sometimes I want to make sure that I am as authentic as possible. So I, second guess myself a lot. But it comes, you get better, you get more familiar. But yeah, it's definitely been like a life shift in dramatic ways for me. And I still do a lot of the detoxing with the foot baths regularly. I actually bought one from you and I do it at home at least once a week. So I'm still sticking with certain detoxes to try to help my body too through but I just, recently I had a relapse of the thyroid. And instead of being down and out for the whole like time that it takes to get everything under control, I was only down and out for a few days. Like I still had to modify what I could do to be safe, but I didn't feel depressed. I didn't have any of the other symptoms and things that went along with it before. So that really kind of brought it to fruition as far as how far I've come with this, because a lot of those mental processes through the healing aren't even there anymore. So it doesn't even affect me, even though I'm still being affected by the same thing.
Yeah. How long has it been since you had an episode?
Um, I mean, I would say like when I first came to see you, I remember that that was kind of, I was going through that episode, so that's why I was seeking some kind of help. After I met you, I hadn't had anything until this past April.
So it's been
So it was
like,
a good 3 years,
yeah,
4 years. It
yeah.
was a lot.
And previously the episodes would last a lot longer.
I would say they still lasted about the same, with the medication, like, you're constantly trying to titrate, get on, get off, whatever. And but if it goes out of balance, it generally takes 6 to 8 weeks. Um, I mean, I just knew how to handle it. And I mean, I would say I still had all the symptoms, but the emotional, mental, like spiral of like depression and not being able to get out of it, none of that was there. It was like I was still going through and having like palpitations, but I would just take a medicine to like kind of calm it down so that I wasn't like hurting myself. I had to be safe, can't have
Right.
121 beats per minute. That's
Yeah, yeah, I know,
um
right?
but I didn't feel out of control and hopelessness. Like I remember the first time I had an episode, I was like so hopeless. Like, why is this happening to me? Oh my God. Like I have to be here for my kids. What is this? Like, oh my God. Like, how am I gonna do this? I don't feel like I can do anything. I felt inadequate. I felt like, how am I, like, ever gonna get through this? It seemed like it would just not let up, like nothing, like, and I would feel anxious and like I had a pit in the like an empty pit in my stomach of like, when you lose somebody or you're like really hurt or something, and it just was like eating at me. And it was just like, I have all these things and expectations of other people on me, and I can't do any of that. And like, I remember feeling very inadequate and like I caused this in some way, like, but I don't, but hopeless because I'm not like, how am I ever going to get better? And then I had like the goiter. And so like, I had this ball in my throat and I felt like I couldn't swallow. And like, so there was like many things. um I had pretty good support then through it, as far as like getting to understand, and tried many different things like through diet and other avenues. But really for me, it was the energy healing that started to move more of the mental, emotional, like background noise, and kind of clear all the stuff that's just hanging on, and it's just like debris that needed to go. um so I didn't feel any kind of shifts really until I started with the energy work. I think for a lot of people, and definitely myself included, the mental, emotional, like more than like what physical ailments or things that we're going through, because we're just experiencing that. If we can get around that and like let a lot of that programs and things that aren't even things that we trip ourselves up over, just having these mental spirals. And if we can get over that, even if we have the symptoms, it's easier to handle. And then I think also being connected to the community that Nourishing Journey provides also. There's so many different types of services depending on what you're going through that can help you, um kind of balance yourself off, whether, so detox or energy work. So it's been really helpful for me all around, like with all of that.
Oh, I'm so glad. So with the ascension process and our personal spiritual journeys, it really is all about the ascension. And what I'm curious to know, what I always say to people is, at the surface level is the physical experience. It's what we're going through. It's the, okay, I've got Graves' disease, or I've got financial issues, or I've got these things. Underneath of that is a mental, emotional layer. And then underneath of that is that spiritual piece. What are we trying to learn through this? And I always say, once we get what we are looking for, once we get the message or the lesson or heal the thing or clear the thing, the physical symptoms or whatever it is we're going through in the physical level seems to kind of just clear up. What do you think, with your experience and what you've been going through and what you're currently in journey with, what do you think some of these lessons have been for you? And I know sometimes it has to do, especially because, you were saying the heart flutter. And I know that there's been a lot of heart expansion and healing for you. And so if you're open to that, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely was like a very shy kid. I mean, I don't know how to, where do you start? Like you learn a lot about yourself through these processes. So, I was a very shy kid, and honestly, through all of the work, I don't know that I was always a shy kid. I think that there was actually a point in time where I had a trauma where my dad left and my stepfather came in, and I had to deal with like a whole different situation there with him. And that dominating kind of figure who didn't let you really talk or do anything. You just have to be a kid. And I think that even though I didn't know, I actually shut part of myself off to protect myself, to get through. And then so I didn't really know how to have a voice as a kid. I did not know how to have a voice. And then Ray died kind of suddenly when I was 16. I had actually had my first fight ever with him because I was tired of him and my mom fighting all the time. And the next day, we found out that he died in our camper in a fire. So there was a lot of definite emotional grief, not knowing how to process any of that, or counseling wasn't a thing because there was no money. There was barely money to keep a roof over your head and have food. So it was like a lot of suppressed things, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other and going. And I do remember him coming to me in a dream one time and telling me that it wasn't my fault and that he forgave me. And I remember feeling a whole lot better after, but anytime somebody would mention his name, I would still break down and like cry. And over time it got easier because less people would talk about it, I think, not because I actually dealt with the emotions of it. So I think I kind of stuffed all of that inside and packed it down all real nice. Kept it sugar coated over here.
Like we
And
do.
I really think that the Graves' disease stemmed from me not dealing with that emotion, and stuffing it down and not knowing how to process it. And so, kind of funny was I was actually doing kickboxing, right, like pretty regularly for a good year, maybe 2 years. I would go 3 days a week. And that was right before all of the heart stuff happened. So I think that was me getting all the anger out, the rage. And I didn't even really know. I just was like, ooh, exercise that I've never done before. Why does it seem so exhilarating? So I mean, these are all conclusions I've come to much later in my journey, as to like, well, oh wow, why did I do that? And now I'm not really interested in it. So I think I was getting a lot of my anger and all the pent up frustration. And then when it was time to move on to the emotional, is when the other physical symptoms started coming up, and the hopelessness and the desperation, despair, trying to climb out of a hole with no ladder kind of a feeling. And I just remember like, I need to find a way out because I need to be there for my kids. Like, I need to be here for my children. They're young. They only have me as like their rock, their support, and I need to find a way through this for them. Even if I can't see the light for me, I will find it for them. And that was kind of the thing that pulled me through, like, that and a jit kind of telling me, you're fine, it's fine, this happens to people all the time, you're fine.
Aw.
So I was just like, but like for me it was like I have to find a way. So then we tried different diets and everything else, but it's like just when that like it's like you said, it's layers. So you have to let go of the anger and then the emotion, and sometimes you have to let go of the emotion and then the anger, and you have to keep moving between different aspects of you to actually get to the core. But being able to recognize that and understand it usually comes after you've started like doing the work, because the energy work, or with the HM or any energy work, you're not just doing one thing, you're actually dealing with multiple things, and it's opening you up to you and why are you doing this, instead of making it an outward experience about, well, they did this, or this happened to me. It's about being like, well, how did I create this, or what in me is resonating with this? And because if it wasn't meant for me, it would not be showing up for me in this way right now. So I'm supposed to get something from this, learn something from this, learn my own power from this. So I think ultimately learning how to use my voice and to advocate for myself. And that's why when the toning came in, the angelic toning, I was like, really? got
I
jokes.
remember that you were like, I don't know. But you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you. It's still hard to like be like, yeah, I'm angelic toner. Let me just sound like a flute in your ear. Like, what do you say? Like, I don't know. It's still kind of me feeling new. Like I'm pretty comfortable with doing the toning. Um, but I wasn't initially, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like everybody's gonna think I'm a wacko or something. Like, but in my experience with seeing how other people resonate with it is profound. So I know that it's really, doing what it's doing, but like it was really kind of like a joke in a sense, because it's like, you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to talk in front of people, you're gonna have to talk to strangers, you're gonna have to use your voice and tone in front of a bunch of strangers in a big room. And maybe
Using your throat chakra,
be on
you know,
video. Yeah, like
which
really.
thyroid,
Yeah.
so the thyroid and the heart are the two big things for you. And they're the two big things that have had such expansion. And they're the two big things that are involved in Graves' disease,
Yep.
right? So I'm so proud of you. I want you to talk too for a moment about opening up your intuitive gifts, because I know that was hard for you in the beginning because you just thought you didn't have it in you. But then all of a sudden this expansion happened and beautiful things were coming out of you and just amazing information. And you would tune in and you hit it right on the nose. And so it was such a beautiful thing to see.
I mean, thank you. But honestly, I remember, well, I mean, I saw other people doing it and I had asked you, and I was just like, this is some kind of like party trick. Like, how do you guys do this? And I was just like, you're like, no, you can learn. It's like learning how to write or ride a bike. You just have to, try and use it and figure out how to extract the information. I was like, okay. So you guys had I think it was intuitive development, the name changes. So but I think at that point maybe it was like on Fridays or something, and I was like, okay, I'll try this out. Let me see what happens. And I remember coming in and I was just like, I don't even know why I'm here right now. Like, I have no idea why I'm here. And then I would come back again and think the same thing. I have no idea why I'm here. I do not fit this. I cannot do this. And then after some time, I remember, I actually think it coincided with me taking the HM class, the foundation and the first HM class. And I remember that we did card readings, as if I knew how to do card readings at that point. I had no clue what I was doing. And you told me, just like the HM, just feel into it. forget about everything, just feel into it, feel it. And I remember, okay, like, oh, I'm so nervous, like, oh my God, well, what if I get this wrong? Like, this is some kind of a test. Like,
Aw.
but I remember I kind of let go for a second. And when I kind of let go, I just started talking, and I said something, and this girl started crying. And she's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been going through. And I was just like, oh crap, what? Like I myself was kind of like in awe of that. And I was like, okay, so I guess this was my sign that I need to keep going and explore this some more. So I just kept showing up every week. That I don't know, if I think it was like twice a month. And I would just come every time for the and intuitive groups, whatever we did. Some things were or even now are much easier than they were before. But like there's these times and you just never know when it's going to happen where you're just with this person doing a reading, and it's almost like this force is just like, okay, here you go, and you can feel it, you can just feel the heat, the power, and it's just like, okay, here. And the other person is just like, oh my God, that was amazing. And you're just like, I have no idea what that where I know that was totally channeled because it never had time to process for a second in my brain. It was just like a dump out of my mouth. And I was just like, but that feeling of being able to tap into that and have the other person experience it on a level where it's like something just clicked and they're able to make a shift or a change in their life for a better way. So I think having those little kind of aha moments or those little kind of like, oh my God, that was exactly what I needed to hear with other people, along the way kind of gives you your confidence. And like I try not to look for that now because I know that, at the point where I was learning, I maybe needed that, to keep me going in the direction. But now I don't need that validation. I just need to learn how to trust myself, which is kind of like what I do now is I don't think about it. I just do it. If I think about it, I trip myself up. The second my mind gets in there, it ain't happening. So I have to like really kind of just be like, this is what it is. Take it, leave it, like it, love it, whatever. This is how the message is coming. But that took a while for me. It really did. It took a while. I felt very much like I didn't belong there. Like I was like doing something weird, but something in me was resonating with it and was like, no, keep going. And I was just like, okay. And I just kind of followed that little push. Probably my guide's like, here you go. You wanted a little nudge, but I didn't really know why I felt inclined to do any of this until I think much later in my process where I was able to like, come to a point where now I can go back and reflect as to how did this happen? What was the driving force or what was this? And now that I feel more connected, I know that it was my own soul and my guides helping me find what I needed to find to help me grow. But during that process, I like because I would literally do things that I was like, I'm so freaking uncomfortable right now. Why am I here? I'm so uncomfortable. And I would just sit there like biting my inner lip, like I am so uncomfortable, but I can do this. And then eventually it got more comfortable and more easy and like now it's almost like seamless. But yeah, I definitely didn't start there. So when I see other people that are like, well, you guys all know what you're doing, how like, oh, uh, you have no idea.
Right, I know.
I did not
I
come.
know.
I didn't come with it all like right here. I struggled through and had to go through my own processes to be able to have that belief in myself. And so I really kind of like I love seeing people kind of tap into that energy and kind of really seeing and feeling even if they only feel it that one time. Like I think for me that like something lights up in my soul and it's like, yes, more of this, please. This is where I'm supposed to be. So it's, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a journey for sure.
Yes. Well, like anything, there's, whatever we're meant to be doing, it often requires us to dive in and put in effort. And I think that's why they call it the journey. It's a spiritual journey and it's an awakening. And and I think specifically with intuition, there are some people who are naturally gifted with it. They come in opened. And I keep thinking of my son, Jacob. He was always very open. I didn't have to really teach him much. In fact, he probably taught me. But for a lot of us, we might even come in open, but it gets shut down, or maybe we just never really feel like we were open. And then we have to go through the effort of awakening into it. And it's so worth it, because once you can really get that intuitive edge into, your experience, you can connect and ask about your difficulties and figure out what's best for you, what's not best for you. And you end up saving a lot of time, and not to say that you still don't make some wrong choices here and there, or, go down a path that you feel like, I don't know if that was right. But the chances of you getting onto the path that's for your highest good, that helps you move through things more easily, it's so much greater when you can connect and you can talk to your higher self or your guides or your angels, and you can at the very least feel into a situation and be like, is this right for me or not? And then know if it might be right for you, but it's a challenge and that you're meant to overcome, or it's not right for you and you really shouldn't choose it. Being able to, because that confuses people a lot of times. If something gets difficult, so many people just bail. They just step away. They're like, no, it's too difficult, must not be meant to be. And what I find is that a lot of times the difficulties are where you're meant to dig in and really figure out who you are. And but sometimes, it is a sign from the universe, it's time to go. So, if you're staying in something you're not meant to stay in, and you can hear, okay, it's time to go, well then, hey, all right, you just saved yourself some time. But if you're meant to dive in and you're meant to figure out who you are in a situation and to overcome something, if you just bail every time it gets hard because you aren't intuitive enough to figure it out and to get that information, you're going to be learning that lesson for a lot longer. And it's going to take you longer to get through it. And that pattern is going to show up somewhere else. So because you need to learn it, whatever it is. So yeah, I find that whole conversation very fascinating. When do you bail, or when do you like dig in and really figure it out and overcome something? So I don't know, but do you feel like your intuition has helped you a lot with that?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I'm much more centered. I don't know, I feel much calmer. Not that I was not a calm person, but I think my internal is calmer, and it's instead of, kind of putting everything on somebody else, being able to be like, well, what is this? Why is this showing up for me? Kind of questioning yourself and questioning where you're coming from, what this might be stemming from, and really like looking at yourself and holding yourself accountable for pretty much anything and everything that's in your experience, and being able to really reflect on that. So you don't, I find that I don't really get angry anymore. Like I'm just like, that's your process, deal with it. When you're ready, let's talk, like kind of a thing. Like, I don't, I deal with my children in a very, very different manner than I did before I started this. Like I used to shout at my kids. I used to I shout very loudly at my kids because I thought that that's what you did, that's how you discipline your kids. That's what I saw. I didn't really know any better. Now I started doing this. I don't think I've ever shouted at my kids. After I talk to them, I tell them what is expected of them. I make it very clear that this is what they need to do. If they don't do something, I tell them that how they need to do it, and that they need to do it right now. But I don't I don't feel the anger or the rage inside of me anymore. It's just like, we live together, we help each other, you need to do this, that's it, kind of a thing. And I realized that, a lot of the times, like, they don't even mean it. They just get caught up in their own things, like just like we do with work and everything else. And they're caught up in school and schoolwork and their own thing. And sometimes it just gets overlooked. It's not an intentional process all of the time. Like, we all get busy, so I think I definitely look at life a lot differently in many areas, like in things I didn't really feel equipped to handle. I remember one session with you, I told you something about being able to travel more. Because I would travel, but I would get really nervous and feel like I couldn't relax. I still get like I still can't sleep well when I'm not in my own bed, but as far as the traveling, I don't have any of the nervousness or anxiety. It's just like, you know what? If I miss my plane, I'll get on another one. I'm okay. Like, kind of like, instead of worrying about every little detail about every little thing and how it's going to work out, just really just being able to be present and know that whatever it is, I'm going to be okay. And there will be a way that like, whatever that is. um and when we went to Sedona for the retreat, we missed our flight and that was like, okay, you're gonna be tested now. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna freak out and fight with everybody, or what are you gonna do? Are you gonna melt down? Like, what are you gonna do? You got to be an adult right now. What are you gonna do? And I mean, I remember that ball coming up, like, because I knew we were gonna miss our flight, and then I was just like, there's nothing I can do. Like, it's okay. Like, there's nothing I can do. We'll find. I'll get a hotel. We'll be fine. We'll get on a flight the next day. Whatever has to happen will happen. We'll get home. Um, I remember like just not being upset at all. And I was just like, well, no, that doesn't seem right. Like, why am I not upset? I should be upset. Like, um, I and when we were at Karma Fest, I remember we were giving a speech and I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I giving a speech. And I remember getting up there and talking in front of these people and on camera to Facebook. And I remember not having any anxiety or anything. And I was just like, I was literally like, I couldn't even come out of the what the heck just happened. I'm supposed to be freaking out right now, and I'm cool, calm, and collected as ever. Like, what is going on? And I really still I would attribute that to the energy work and kind of the mental processes, because like, when you're doing that, you're not only removing the energies, you're asking or saying certain things that are triggering responses and releases at the same time. So I mean, my world is definitely very different, very much more settled, calm, collected, even in very challenging situations, like when things are thrown at you, you just deal with everything differently. Oh, your water heater broke and it's leaking everywhere. Okay, I gotta call somebody and we're not gonna have water for a few days. Okay.
Oh no.
Instead of freaking out. It's okay.
But it really changes your life, right? When you start healing and you address some of the core issues, it changes your response to things, which you've really beautifully demonstrated and talked about, all the different things that you've overcome with that. But it also changes the way things show up in your life as well. Because one of the things I have found is when you are done healing something and you've passed the test, because the universe will test you, when you've passed that test, it doesn't seem to really show up anymore. So have you had any experiences with that where just at least to date, because, well, you aren't done quite yet, so we'll see where things go. But have you had things that you're like, well, I know those things used to show up, like people used to cut me off on the road or something like that. That doesn't really seem to happen as much anymore. Do you have those issues too, where things seem like they just don't seem to happen as much?
Yeah, a lot of things don't happen as much, and I find too, like a lot of times, like when you're able to really look at a situation objectively, no matter who it involves, you're able to like kind of detach emotionally in a sense, so that the things that used to bother you don't bother you, because you're able to really kind of, I, I like to think of it as like connect, like disconnecting, but like instead connecting up here. So you're looking at a situation from like understanding of that this person has work to do, that they're, in where they are, and so you're not as upset by things that they say or actions that they do, because you have an understanding that that's their own processes that they're working through. I've definitely felt like it's helped me a lot with certain people in my life, and dealing and navigating the situations, tricky family dynamics, and certain relationships that like you're just, they're your family, you're not sure like what do you do, but being able to just let them be who they are, and not allow, like, let it affect you, and trying to, like, find other ways of, like, limiting contact or exposure or whatever. But so I mean, there's definitely been a lot of help all around as far as that goes. I tend to find that a lot of the things that used to bother me, honestly, like, I don't know, like, none of it matters anymore. Like, there's so many things, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, oh man, I'm gonna get rained on. Yesterday I was like, oh, it looks like it's gonna rain. I'm driving to the office, and I was just like, hey guys, you up there? Hey, how about we hold that rain off at least until I get inside? What do you say, please? It
They
started
were.
raining about 10 minutes after I got inside. I was like, thank
Oh,
you guys.
nice,
You heard
nice.
me. So,
I've
I
had that
mean,
happen before too.
I just, I feel like there's so many things, and it's only improved all of my relationships with every single person. It's allowed me clarity to know where I stand in situations, where I should put my energy, where I should not put my energy. But the most is, I've always felt like I've had this inner voice inside of me, and I do stuff that I don't know why I do. And a lot of times very uncomfortable things, and what other people cannot fathom, that why would you do this? But there's something in me that puts me where I need to be. And I've learned how to understand what that is, and what it's doing for me, and how it's helping drive me to where I need to be. So instead of resisting it, I kind of lean into it, like, this is hard, but I'm supposed to be here. I wouldn't be here otherwise. So like, but I needed to be able to understand what that was, and otherwise I'd still end up where I am, because it will find a way, but this is much easier as I'm leaning into it. I'm able to really go through processes so much faster, instead of dwelling on something, mulling it over, thinking about, oh my God, well, what if? I'm like, what if it's done? Move on. There's no what ifs. There's no, anything is speculation. You have no idea how the other person would react in any kind of situation. So you need to just move on, be present, kind of being my own coach in a way. Like,
Good job.
it's really helped me so much.
Well, okay, I want to end this with some words and guidance to anybody who might be watching this. And I feel like maybe even specifically just about the ascension journey and what we go through in our healing journey. Do you have any words of wisdom?
I mean, I guess for me, it like I said, it was really awkward and uncomfortable the first time I opened up to something new, which most things that are new are awkward and uncomfortable, and you just keep doing them regularly, and then it becomes second nature or enjoyable. But we don't start, the working out is not enjoyable until you've been doing it for a while. Riding a bike and falling on your face is not enjoyable until you learn how not to fall. So just like that, it's the same thing with any kind of healing or spirituality or anything that you do. You got to just show up, go in there, and see where it leads you, and see, everybody's going to have their own journey. Everybody's going to have their own way of dealing with it, but just opening yourself up. And even though it might be uncomfortable, just having that openness to understand that that might be the best thing for you. Maybe you just have to go through that, kind of like what you said. But for me, it's just been, I've shown up to so many different things, and I've just been like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable right now. And just being able to feel that connection to yourself, like, even if you don't really believe in like spirit guides and angels, it's a deeper connection with yourself, and understanding of why you do the things that you do, why you behave in the way you behave, and what's running you. I really feel like we all have a lot to learn about ourselves. We're not taught to go inward to really evaluate any part of our own behaviors. We're taught to just project it outwardly and blame it on other people. And this is really the first step in taking your power back, is to, relieve some of the emotion, be open, and allow yourself to question yourself, and really open up to the mental processes that go with the healing.
Wow, beautifully said. I could not have said that better myself. Well,
Thanks.
thank you so much, Carrie. I so love you and appreciate you. And I feel blessed that you were sharing your story today with us, anyone who might be watching this, and hopefully it helps some people move forward in their journeys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.